$305 US. That's the amount of passive income I earned in the month of April 2026. Certainly not enough to go and retire and live the high life on, at least not where I live here in New Zealand. But I'm not actually planning to retire here in New Zealand anyway. Actually, when it comes to retirement, my wife and I are thinking of retiring somewhere where our money will go a lot further. Somewhere like Malaysia, maybe Thailand, and we've got our eye on a few places around Southeast Asia. But I wanted to make this video because I wanted to document my journey on making passive income and how important I think it is, especially building various income streams is really, really important, regardless of your goal, whether that's to retire later in life, retire early, or just supplement your income for whatever reason. So in my case, the reason why I'm so fixed on building passive income streams these past couple of years is because of my goal to perhaps retire in my early, mid-50s. Obviously, I'm gonna need some sort of steady income coming in. And over the past 3 years or so, I've concentrated on investing in things that pay me dividends. Within the past year especially, I've become hyper-focused on building a portfolio that will pay regular dividends each month. The idea being that these dividends are going to grow into an amount that will actually be able to support my wife and I financially in our retirement. Ultimately, I want to become less reliant on wage and salary income. As I get older, it's become very obvious to me that it's very dangerous to rely on one source of income. When you get closer to 50, you clearly become less desirable to employers. And things are all good at the moment. I work in a good job, making good income, but I do know that things can happen and your job and your income can just disappear essentially. So the past couple of years, I'm really fixed on creating different income streams. The main source of passive income that I've built up over the last few years has been coming from investments, stock investments. Shortly after returning to New Zealand 4 years ago, I opened up a portfolio with a broker here and started investing into growth companies, companies that are going to grow long term, but also pay a regular dividend. I won't bore you with the details, but I've just got half a dozen companies or so in that portfolio that over these last few years done pretty well. I think it's made a 17% profit since I opened it. Not bad. Fast forward to last year when I really started to think hard about retirement and what age we wanted to retire. My wife and I sort of agreed that we want to retire as early as possible. I mean, doesn't everybody really? The first thing we noticed was that it was going to be very, very difficult to retire early in a place like New Zealand. So as I mentioned before, we started exploring options of retirement in Southeast Asia and decided that looks a lot more achievable. Anyway, the next thing we realized was that we're going to need some sort of steady income, obviously, to support us if we do decide to retire in the next few years, because we're a number of years away from our pension age. I'm 49, my wife's a little bit older than me, she's 51. So there's still a good 15, 16 years to go until we qualify for pension, if pensions exist at all by that point. Who knows? So from there, I started researching in a lot more depth, higher dividend paying investments. And eventually I settled on creating a portfolio made of, at the moment, only 4 funds that pay higher than average dividends each month. Actually, some of them pay me each week, which is pretty cool. In a previous video about how much money would we need each month to retire in a place like Malaysia, I'll put that somewhere on the screen here. I came to the calculation that we would need approximately $800 US a month to live. That is after housing costs, of course. That's a different story. We're going to use our savings to buy a place where we retire. Back to that high dividend portfolio that I mentioned just a minute ago. I started that portfolio about 10 months ago, so it's under a year old, and last month in April, it returned me $220 US. Now again, that doesn't sound like a huge amount, but when you remember that I just mentioned we only need $800 a month to live in a place like Malaysia, the plan all starts coming together much faster than I originally thought. So if that portfolio is earning me US $220 a month at the moment, where's that gonna be in a year or two's time? It's quite exciting to think that that monthly income in, say, 3 to 4 years' time is going to be enough to support us financially. And that's just that portfolio. I have mentioned before that I've got other portfolios. I'll talk about them in more detail some other time because they don't really generate all that much passive income a month. They're mostly value investments. Over time, they are steadily increasing in value, and eventually I'll sell them. So if $220 comes from the dividend portfolio, where's the other money coming from? Well, the other money is coming from actually mostly YouTube. I have another YouTube channel that I've had for several years now. It's monetized, makes me a little bit of money every month. I think in April it paid me about 130 New Zealand dollars. I think that's something like 80 US dollars. So nothing huge, but it's pretty cool that I get money quite regularly from that. Fingers crossed I can get this channel monetized one day as well and hopefully make a dollar or two from it. And the rest of the money in that $305 total came from just interest on various bank accounts I have. Point is though, my monthly passive income is steadily increasing. And I wanted to share another thing I've learned on this journey as well, especially since I've been earning a lot more passive income from it in this past year. It's really shifted my mindset on money. What I mean more precisely is the opportunity cost of everything. When I see that I could spend, say, a couple of $100 a month on investments that are paying quite a high yield in dividends each month, or are growing in value slowly over time, I realize that that's obviously money much better spent than on things, say, like going out for a weekend drinking, where I could easily drop a couple of $100 or more. And I've already mentioned previously that a few years ago I just kind of gave up on drinking, really, because that was one thing I really noticed that there's very little return on investment from. I think over my entire adult life I can count on one hand the amount of nights I've had where I had like a fantastic time where alcohol was involved. So that's what, 30 years or so. I don't really think that's such a great return on my investment. So these days when I think about spending my money, I'm thinking about the opportunities that it could buy me. Because what I'm trying to do is slowly and steadily buy my freedom. Now, I'm certainly not perfect. I have not managed to free myself of completely frivolous spending. There are still purchases I make every now and then where after a while I think to myself, why did I buy that? However, over the last 3-4 years especially, I have managed to really cut down on that wasteful spending a bit. So yeah, in the back of my mind, I'm trying as much as possible to spend my money on things that are gonna, buy me that freedom pretty soon, hopefully. With my goal of retiring at some point in the reasonably near future, I'm certainly not trying to buy myself a luxury lifestyle. That 800 US dollars a month I said I'd need earlier to live in a place like Malaysia, it's certainly not going to buy me a luxury lifestyle, but it is going to buy a pretty decent one at that. When it comes down to it, buying that freedom, living a less pressured lifestyle is way more valuable to me at least than having a very high luxury lifestyle. So to sum it all up, I'm learning that relying on one stream of income is a pretty dangerous thing to do, especially as you get older, and having various streams of income, preferably passive income, is going to make your life a little bit safer. If you've got goals like I have of needing an income in your retirement, then it's obviously very important. And overall, I've learned that I need to concentrate on not just buying stuff anymore, but buying my freedom. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on building passive income streams or even building non-passive income streams. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching.